4:31 by my count, so we will start the Landmarks Commission meeting for Wednesday, November 18th, 2020. First item of business would be the roll call. And David.
Here.
Susan. I can see you, Susan, but you're on mute.
The thing finally there. Okay, before that drop down thing didn't happen. All right, I'm unmuted, as you can tell.
Ian.
Here.
Justin. Absent. Claire is also absent, and Ron was excused. Next item is the approval of today's agenda. For meeting, the agenda was included in the packet. Does anybody have any revisions or corrections or comments for that agenda? Hearing none, I would ask for a motion to approve.
So moved.
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the October 7th, 2020 meeting of the Landmarks Commission. Those minutes were in the meeting packet as well. Corrections or changes to those minutes? Hearing none, I'd ask for a motion to approve.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We're on to item E, regular business. The first item is item E1, Certificate of Appropriateness 20-30, consideration with possible action on a design review for a new wall sign located at 154 North Broadway. Jason, would you like to take us through this one?
Yes, we have a non-contributing infill building in one of the Broadway districts, and they're just replacing some signage, so staff recommends approval.
Any discussion on this from the committee? Would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Any further discussion on this issue? I'd ask for a vote. All in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is item E2, Certificate of Appropriateness 20-32, consideration with possible action on design review for a new commercial garage door located in the alley of 127 South Washington Street. Jason, would you like to brief us on this one?
Love to. This is the backside of a commercial building on South Washington Street. The National Register nomination identifies it, of course, as a contributing building, but the National Register nomination that I wrote makes no mention whatsoever of the backside of the building. So the proposal here is to remove the rear facade. Looks like a little storefront, 1 story tall, and well, not the entire facade, the windows, if you will, and substitute in a commercial garage door. So, Landmark staff recommends approval of this change.
Just to clarify, it looks like on this rendering that they are adding a second story in the back. I confirmed with the applicant that they are not. That is just the visual of the building. That's the front of 127.
Okay.
That just clarified my only concern.
I was wondering about that too. Let's see. What are they going to be doing with this building?
It
Does
sounds
anyone know?
like this will be the garage for the business that is, or I'm sorry, the residence that's upstairs from the front business.
Okay. I know that was a law office there.
So I have no concerns with this. I would make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Is there any further discussion on this project? Hearing none, I would ask for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next item for business would be the staff level certificate of appropriateness applications. Stephanie or Jason, would you like to run through these for us?
We had an application to put glass blocks in the basement windows at 837 South Jackson. Per the ordinance language, we have the authority to just grant that as a matter of course without too much thought going into it. So that's what's happened here.
And that's it.
Is that the only, that's the only one? Okay, I'm sorry. Next item would be to review city raise and repair orders and demolitions, item F2.
So we have 4 raise repair orders this month. The first one, 1118 Klaus. It's northern side of the city off Webster, not too far from the Highway 41 McDonald's area, Shell McDonald's. I wanted to talk about this house a little bit. At the end of the story, just to jump to the spoiler, I guess, is that the house probably lacks integrity for National Register listing. But it's an interesting house. Here you see one angle of it, and what makes it interesting to me anyway is the cube-like portion at the right-hand side. And if you go to the next picture, similar view of the house. But I guess what makes it interesting, of course, is why does it have that big cube-like portion? Well, tax records suggest that maybe this was built in 1918. There's an earlier newspaper mention. I don't know if it's the same house at that point. It does appear on the 1938 aerial imagery. I know it was a soft drink parlor in 1930. I know they had a liquor license application in 1934. There's various mentions of apartments or a roadhouse. In 1939, the Cole triplets were born, and this is where they lived. The more traditional looking house portion of this might be later than the cube portion. I don't really know. But again, at the end of the day, it probably lacks integrity. But there was enough of an interesting story here I wanted to share a little bit more with you. So next slide. The Cole triplets. You know, usually when we get a raise repair order, I go through some nominal research, and on most properties I see that, oh, so-and-so lived there, they had a baby, they had a wedding reception, it was sold, you know, this is the normal stuff. Cole triplets, that's a little unusual for this sort of research. Stranger yet to come across the last surviving member of the Cole triplets died on November 8th of this year. You'll see they would appreciate it if you hoisted a cup of coffee in his memory.
Jason, I do have a question for you about terminology used before. You said it lacks integrity. Is that referring to structural integrity or what precisely do you mean by that?
Replacement windows, replacement siding, or specifically altered fenestration, altered siding. These things are kind of dings against it. It's not a really spectacular example of a apartment slash house. If it looked,
With materials, is that fair enough?
yeah, if it looked just like it did in 1939, I think we'd have something, but it doesn't. Here in 1969, does it say? I can't read the date.
Yes, 69.
Excellent. So an 86-year-old up on a ladder that I suspect she put there, painting her house. Certainly not, eligible for National Register listing, but anytime you see an 86-year-old on a ladder painting a house, that's something to kind of take note of, as the journalist here did. This person didn't die until 1984 at the age of 101.
Oh,
But indeed, that's the house that she is painting. That little covered area over the door, that small roof is no longer present, but I pieced together where it was. So, at the end of the day, you've got kind of a neater than usual history on a house that's not been taken care of. So,
yeah.
any questions on that house?
That's a great story and great information.
Yeah, this Lucy Vandertye also worked at Kopp's, the chocolatier restaurant later in life, later than this yet, I think. So, yeah, I was reading the paper. She, of course, was still alive when her 72-year-old son died about 10 years after this picture. So, anyway, moving on.
Very cheerful story.
That was good. I enjoyed that.
432 Abrams. This is an example of a house where the historical records show that so-and-so bought it, so-and-so lived, so-and-so died. It wasn't nearly as interesting. I have no reason to say that this house would be eligible for National Register listing. I don't see any objections to a raise repair order against it. 711 Eliza is in the Astor Historic District. The Landmarks Commission really needs to make sure this one does not get torn down.
I do have an update on this. So this was the one that we did the demolition by neglect finding at our last meeting. One of the owner's relatives has reached out to me stating that he is intending to make the repairs on the home. So we did follow up with him, letting him know what programs are available. I haven't heard back if he's planning to purchase the property or if he's just doing the maintenance work. But there is some movement here, so this may be a easier save than we originally anticipated.
That's good news.
Are there still occupants in the building?
I don't think so. I mean, as of our last meeting, they had to leave because the building wasn't safe.
Right.
So I
I
can't
just saw
imagine.
the lights on there several times since then. So.
Ooh, you should report that to our inspection office. I don't think they're supposed to be in there, so.
When I took these pictures last week, the doors were open and people were inside hauling stuff out.
Okay.
So what's fascinating about this particular house is that the National Register nomination basically included a rumor, if you will, that it was once part of St. Joseph's Academy, which is where the Aldo Leopold School is today. And in doing some research, I can confirm that, yes, it was part of the buildings that constituted St. Joseph's Academy. Now, the neat thing about that, though, is if you do a little more digging, you realize that St. Joseph's Academy was the former Rufus Kellogg estate. Rufus Kellogg being the namesake person for Kellogg Library and Kellogg's Citizen Bank and probably anything else named Kellogg here in Green Bay. Interesting side bit to that too is that the Rufus Kellogg estate was designed by famous Oshkosh architect William Waters. And so here you have a rendering of the house. And what I haven't made entirely clear is that 711 Eliza was the carriage house, or Rufus Kellogg's carriage house originally. And I did find newspaper articles that make it very clear that the outbuildings were sold in 1909 as part of the big 1910 remodel or upgrade to the St. Joseph's Academy. The old building that you see at the corner today of the Aldo Leopold School, the neoclassical building, that was built in 1910, and that's one of Henry Fuller's designs. A little interesting tie-in too, William Waters, of course, is the architect for the building on the corner of, it's one of your buildings, Ian, the corner of Adams.
Pine and Adams.
Yeah. So very few examples of his work here in Green Bay, but this carriage house, which you see at the end of the green arrow on the old bird's eye view, that's indeed one of his products, so.
And further interesting is that Henry Fowler worked with William Waters, and that's kind of where his practice grew out of.
So naturally, my logic says that Ian, you're responsible for purchasing and rehabilitating the house.
Absolutely, with city funds.
Yes,
Excellent.
we have tens and tens of dollars available for that, so
Excellent. We should be set.
I think so. Any questions on 711 Eliza? I don't really know where it goes from here, except that we have to make sure it's not torn down. The National Register does note that front porch, which is in a bad state of repair,
Yep.
which at one point, I know I uttered the words, we should tear off the porch, but maybe that's not the right answer.
Way to go, Jason.
As a carriage house, it did not have the porch, but it appears that that porch was put on there in 1910, right after they moved it, so.
Good research, Jason.
Well, is there anything we as a commission can do to encourage and support them, or at least advocate for what they're doing? Stephanie, it sounds like you'd been in contact with them. Is that adequate, or is there something we could do more?
I think it's adequate for now. I think that if we get into the situation where nobody's stepping up to make repairs, then we might have to get creative about it. But right now, with that family member stepping in, it's kind of saved the building and us a little bit. So, it's not like we have a fund available that's just that we can give to people. We told them about our loan program. We told them about the state historic tax credits. So I'm kind of just waiting to hear what his response is and what his plans are moving forward with that building.
I enjoy an awkward pause, sorry. Moving on to 1140 South Greenwood. This is a typical post-war home. There's a number of newspaper articles about it beginning in the late 1940s with some baby having been born to the couple that lived here, and it changed hands a number of times. I don't see any research that would suggest it's eligible for the National Register. I'm excited that we'll be doing this intensive survey of the city of Green Bay, though, because I'm fairly confident we're going to find some post-war neighborhood that, as a neighborhood and a district, would be eligible for listing, but at this time, I can't make an argument for giving this house special protection.
So that takes us to staff update.
Jason and I are working on our contract with Legacy Architecture currently, so we should be getting to work pretty soon here. Once we figure out how to draft a legal document, we just keep doing things we don't actually know how to do, but we'll figure it out. I think that's all that I have. Do you have anything to add?
It's going to be awesome. Best contract ever, no doubt.
All right. Next item is the date of the next meeting. It's tentatively scheduled for Wednesday, December 16th, 2020. Provided we have applications to review, it'll be the last meeting for 2020. Is there any other new business? Hearing none, I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion at 20 minutes, so close to the record.
It was worth it not to get the record, just to hear that background on those houses.
That's right.
I'll second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Stay well.